on Wave 3.
History of rock and roll. I'm Rocky, along with Troy from the QMF Morning Show.
You know, QMF gives you the best rock and roll in this city, I think perhaps in the country. Well, Big 58 is giving you the history of rock and roll, a 10-hour special. For the next several nights, you're going to see and hear from the people you grew up idolizing, whether it was the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. Now, if you grew up in the 20s like Rocky, it's not really for you. A little bit later on, in fact, you don't just hear music, you're going to hear interviews with these people you grew up idolizing. Like Mick Jagger compares being a rock star to being a stripper with the bumping and the grinding that you have to do. I do want to thank Mick on behalf of us all for keeping his clothes on, though.
We'll also give you details on how you can go on a trip to New York to the Hard Rock Cafe. And coming up, the Plugging In session, where you'll hear John Lennon tell Bob Dylan to be more electric. In fact, you'll find out what happened at the Monterey Pop Festival, which gave us Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and Michael Bolton.
Michael Bolton?
I'm just kidding on that. The history of rock and roll. Here we go.
The history of rock and roll. The event begins.
For the times they are a-changing.
This who created a revolution.
All of a sudden, everything is up for grabs.
Bob Dylan's brilliant gamble.
We could now do anything.
The Beach Boys raising the stakes.
We would be better musically than the Beatles.
Jimi Hendrix's explosive talent.
It was an epiphany.
The astonishing performances. The amazing truths from those who lived it.
He's lighting that thing on fire.
Next on the history of rock and roll.
Who are you?
That's a good question.
Well, I wake up in the morning, there's frogs inside my socks. Your mama, she's hiding inside the icebox. Your daddy walks in wearing a Napoleon Bonaparte mask.
Is it true that you've changed your name? And if so, what was your real name?
My real name was Knezovich.
Is that the first or the last name?
That was the first name.
Your grandpa's cane, it turns into a sword. Your grandma prays the picture.
Do you think of yourself primarily as a singer or as a poet?
Well, I think of myself more as a song and dance man, you know.
And you ask why I don't live here. I can't believe it, you're for real.
And now you're doing a record for Columbia.
Yeah, it's coming out in March.
And what's it going to be called?
Bob Dylan, I think.
This is a young man who grew out of a need. He came here, he came to be as he is because things needed saying, and the young people were the ones who wanted to say them, and they wanted to say them in their own way. He somehow had an ear on his generation, and he has set a pace for many people and is now, well, he's now continuing in the same way, and there are many others that are joining him. I don't have to tell you, you know him, he's yours, Bob Dylan.
This is Carl. It's all right, Ma. I'm only bleeding. Ho, ho, ho.
A modern-day troubadour, Bob Dylan, changed the rules of the game. It was the 60s, a time of unrest and ferment. The music helped define the spirit of the age, from the daredevil creativity of the Beatles and the moody harmonies of the Beach Boys to the stark beauty of Jimi Hendrix. Inspired by Dylan's example, rock went from pop to poetry.
Darkness at the break of noon, shadows even the silver spoon, the handmade blade, the child's balloon, eclipses both the sun and moon. To understand, you know too soon, there is no sense in trying. As pointed threats they bluff with scorn, suicide remarks are torn from the fool's gold mouthpiece. The hollow horn plays wasted words, proves to warn that he not busy being born is busy dying.
This young man was born in Duluth, Minnesota. He started playing the guitar when he was just a child of 10, but he says it didn't do him too much good in high school. He says the only trouble with playing guitar is you don't get cheerleader girls. He is now one of the most sought-after folk artists. I think one of the reasons for his popularity is that he has the mind of a poet.
I've been playing, on the stage since I've been 10.
I was singing Muddy Waters songs, and I was writing songs, and I was singing Woody Guthrie songs.
For 15 years I've been doing what I've been doing.
Rambling out of the Wild West, leaving the towns I love the best. Thought I'd seen some ups and downs till I came into New York town. Wintertime in New York town, the wind blowing the snow around. Walk around with nowhere to go. Somebody can freeze right to the bone. I froze right to the bone.
You see, when he came to New York, one of his prime motives was to meet Woody Guthrie, and Woody was in the hospital with Huntington's chorea. And he used to play and sing for Woody.
There I met Bob, and Bob was young, and he was just recently arrived in New York. And we ended up staying at the same hotel, Euro Hotel. The guitar picker's home away from home.
Swung on to my old guitar, grabbed hold of a subway car. After rocking, reeling, rolling wide, I landed up on the downtown side. Greenwich Village.
When I was a kid at school, that's all I wanted to be, really, was Bob Dylan.
I had my coat hanger and my little harmonica holder and guitar when I was 14, like all the other guys.
And the first thing I played was old folk songs, Green Sleeves.
I walked down there and ended up in one of them coffee houses on the block. I'd get on the stage, sing and play, man, I say, come back some other day. You sound like a hillbilly. We want folk singers here.
There was this folk scene going on. It was the bohemians, the folkies and the poets, the comedians would come out of little coffee houses, like the Gaslight Cafe was a really popular one. Dave Van Ronk used to run the hootenannies there, and Dylan would go in, and people would go in and try their new material there.
And at 19, I had my first professional job. I sang around town, and I had versions of I know where I'm going, and I know who's going with me. I know who I love, but the devil knows who I'll marry. All kinds of wonderful songs that drifted to me from various singers.
Those clubs provided a nucleus for an instrumental style and a musical style. It evolved out of crushing young modern songwriters in with bluegrass players, old-timey music people, commie folk singers from New York City, 60 and 70-year-old blues men.
I'm gonna do down. I'm gonna get me a mojo hand. I'm gonna do down. Boys, I'm gonna get me a mojo hand. I just want to fix my woman so can't have no other man.
One of the things that happened was the rules were being broken. No longer was it a matter of singing Earth Angel and Rock Around the Clock. You had people like Bob Dylan. He is one of the great examples of someone who studied and knew the songs of all the 50s bands and knew all the blues writing and began to write in his own way, and other songwriters began to do the same thing, writing about current politics.
Oh, I marched to the Battle of New Orleans at the end of the early British wars. The young land started growing, the young blood started flowing, but I ain't marching anymore.
When we all used to work these coffee houses, the way they would pay us would be to pass a basket around. And if Richie had been in that night, there wouldn't be any money left because he was so good that he'd get all the money.
people were in the very first days of their acts. And that was part of the magic, as you saw creativity. So writing was big. There was a lot of poetry still. There was writing of songs. There was the beginning of creating social awareness through art.
How many years can a mountain exist before it is washed to the sea?
We were not in competition. We were students of the same muse. If somebody did a song of yours, you were blown away that they would even think, that your song was important enough to do.
How many times can a man turn his head and pretend that he just doesn't see? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
I remember Bobby Dylan was living with me in Woodstock for the summer when Blowing in the Wind came out. And there was a sense of the enormous moment of the linkage of the music to the political movements of our time.
That movement of the 60s really had a huge impact on my consciousness when I was a child. I was very aware of the civil rights movement and the part that the music played in it. You'd hear Bob Dylan, Joan Baez, Richie Havens, and the music was part of the culture. You'd go to the rallies and you'd hear the music.
Come gather round, people, wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept it that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, then you better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changing.
But I did this very crazy thing.
How Bob Dylan changed the music forever.
There was screaming, there was booing.
And why he was hated for it. Coming up on the History of Rock and Roll. The History of Rock and Roll is brought to you by Chrysler Plymouth and your local Chrysler Plymouth dealers. The Discover Card. It pays to discover. The card that pays you back. AT&T. And Excedrin. When you have a headache, choose Excedrin, the headache medicine.
We were looking for the most significant vehicle in the market. We weighed technological advancement, value, and performance. Introducing Chrysler Cirrus, Motor Trend's Car of the Year. Chrysler Cirrus. It's not just a step above. It's the new plateau.
Every year, one credit card gives you something other credit cards don't. Only the Discover Card offers you Cashback Bonus Award. Cash. Over $500 million paid so far. And there's no annual fee. So carry the Discover Card and improve your cash flow. It pays to Discover. Accepted wherever you see the Novus Network sign.
AT&T would like to say thank you. Thank you to the millions and millions of you who've chosen AT&T. With AT&T's Thank You Weekend Free Calling Special. Just call now to sign up, and you can get a free weekend of calls anywhere in the U.S. based on your normal weekend long-distance calling. So to everyone who calls with AT&T, thanks. And call us for your free weekend of calls. Call now.
Your true voice.
How long did I take Tylenol? Forever. Still take it for aches and pains, but for headaches, major lifestyle change. Now I take Excedrin. How come? Excedrin relieves headaches better than Tylenol. Do I feel unfaithful? No. I still use Tylenol for stuff. But for headaches, I mean, it doesn't take a genius. If Excedrin's better, you use Excedrin.
Excedrin, the headache medicine.
Every summer throughout the early 60s, fans came from around the country to the Newport Folk Festival. They came to hear everything from old-timey string bands to the newest singer-songwriters.
Ain't gonna work on the railroad. Ain't gonna work on the farm. Lay around the shack till the mail train come back. Then I'll roll in my sweet baby's arms.
It was a tradition. But in the summer of 1965, Bob Dylan introduced 110 volts of electricity that turned tradition on its ear.
The Newport Folk Festival was a great ideal. This was the era when kids held hands and sang "We Shall Overcome." And they hated rock and roll. By 1965, Bob Dylan was an immense star.
So Dylan comes out with some friends of his.
Got tape. Bring it up again, Bring that tape up here. Let's get that tape.
They were setting equipment up on the stage, and we'd never seen this equipment because it was some heavy sound equipment. We didn't know what he was going to do. Nobody knew what he was going to do. And this explosion of sound came from the stage. And the people, the audience, and the people backstage were totally shocked. We'd never heard this kind of volume at the folk festival.
His bedroom window, it is made out of brick. The National Guard stands around his door. I ain't gonna work for maggots for no more.
The audience was in an uproar. There was screaming, there was booing. It was really bad. Pete Seeger ran into a car and sat in the car holding his ears, and he says, "George, stop that sound." I says, "Pete, I can't stop that sound."
I ain't gonna work for maggots more no more.
The Beatles were doing a benefit at the old Paramount, and I just thought that Lennon and Dylan ought to meet. They deserved to meet. We were backstage, and Dylan stood in the wings on a chair. And of course, you couldn't hear the concert. You could hear nothing but the girls screeching. So after that night, he had my wife drive him over to a place where he rented an electric guitar. Brought it back to my house and started fiddling around with it. And after that, he went electric.
I ain't gonna work for maggots more no more.
A lot of people were angry. I know for a fact that a lot of people felt betrayed.
I try my best to be just like I am, but everybody wants you to be just like them. They say sing while you slave, I just get bored. I ain't gonna work on maggots farm no more.
Were you surprised the first time the blues came?
Yeah, that was at Newport. Well, I did this very crazy thing. So, I didn't really know what was going to happen. But they certainly booed, I'll tell you that. You could hear it all over the place.
Well, first of all, it was the moment that separated the men from the boys. To me, it was the signal that we'd now grown up. We'd now come of age when Dylan went electric, and we could now do anything and everything, and we did it.
Once upon a time, you dressed so fine, threw the bumps of dime in your prime. Then people call, say, beware, doll, you're bound to fall. You thought they were all kidding you.
when he went electric, I thought it was a pioneer move. I thought it was a very brave thing to do, to move socially conscious music into a whole nother arena.
He created a new way that a pop singer could sound.
He basically upped the ante on everything.
Subject matter opened up for the first time. You know, it wasn't just my baby and me doing. When the subject matter got very broad into all kinds of areas.
You go to the finest school, all right. Mr. Lonely, but you're the only used to get used to it.
He predicted some of the fragmentation of thought, of images, of the society itself.
To find out, now you're going to have to get used to it.
He's not just mixing it up album by album or song by song. With him, it's line by line. You know, you move into a different world at the next line.
Now you realize he's not telling any alibis. As he step into the vacuum, rub his eyes and say, do you want to make a deal?
To me, it felt about displacement.
How does it feel to be without a home?
Without a home, that's how you felt.
With no direction home.
To be on your own, that's how you felt.
Like a gambling home.
All of a sudden, everything is up for grabs.
Like a rolling stone.
Certainly painted a picture of what was going on around him. You know, he's Picasso to me of rock and roll.
He is by far my favorite writer and my favorite singer.
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan, I think, absolutely influenced everything that came after him in pop music, or rock music, or folk music, and probably in R&B.
Soldiers stand in my hand at the moment of tears. Living on every become my enemy in the instant that I breathe. My existence led by confusion, but mutiny from stand about. I'm alive with so much older. I'm younger than that now. It's my godhood heart when abstract threats too noble to neglect. Deceive me into thinking I had something to protect. Good and bad, I define these terms quite clear, no doubt somehow. But I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now.
How folk and rock magically merged.
A whole new music was born.
The story behind the sound coming up.
Welcome back, Rocky, Troy, QMF Morning Show, and this is the history of rock and roll on Big 58.
I want to thank Big 58 for having us do this, and I know that we're looking forward to our big segment on the history of rock and roll television special. Stick around for that.
We'll also give you details coming up on how you can win a trip to New York to the Hard Rock Cafe.
Also, David Crosby, a little bit later on tonight, is going to be talking about what was good about the 60s, the peace, the love, and what was bad about the 60s, things like drugs, and the fact that he can eat his weight in raisins.
He could do that?
Yeah, he could eat his weight.
After some trial and error, we've come up with a better chicken sub. Presenting Subway's Hot Chicken Barbecue, now made with big chunks of chicken and plenty of Lloyd's secret recipe sauce.
Enjoy Subway's new barbecue chicken sandwich today. It's 95% fat-free and available now for a limited time only at Subway.
Dylan was the king of folk music at that time, and he went over to England and met with the Beatles. He said, "You guys, you don't say anything. You have nothing to say." And it really shocked Lennon. Lennon really, he really was taken back by this because he was a tremendous admirer of Dylan's. And he started writing more intellectual lyrics after that. And by the same token, Dylan started experimenting with music more. So the two of them really influenced each other in a profound way.
So you had the Dylan influence on the lyrics and the Beatles influence on the music, and a whole new music was born.
Originally, it was a folky thing like, "Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me," and I put it in. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. I'm not sleepy and there ain't no place I'm going to. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. In the jingle jangle morning, I'll come following you.
Jim McGuinn went to see Hard Day's Night, took us all to see it. He saw that 12-string guitar in George Harrison's hand. I think we saw it at the Pix Theater on Hollywood Boulevard. And that was it.
I was playing an acoustic 12-string from my folk days, but it wasn't getting the same sound. And George Harrison had this great sounding guitar. It looked like a 6-string, though. It looked like this. And then he turned it sideways, and I went, aha, that's what it is. It's a 12-string electric. So I went out the next day and got one.
What Jim did with the 12-string was pretty amazing. It was a big part of it. And the harmonies, David Crosby approached his harmony singing totally unlike anybody.
There was a chemistry. You know, I'm a natural harmony singer. It's what I was put here to do, you know, and anytime either one of them would start anything, I would start singing harmony to it.
Gene Clark and I would sing unison, and Crosby would sing a composite part developed from thirds and fourths and fifths of, the melody. I guess he was inspired by the Everly Brothers. It was basically just two-part harmony. But because Crosby was popping around in the different areas of harmony, it sounded like more harmony than it really was. I started incorporating the 4/4 beat with folk music, and I started doing these things in the village. I was living in the Earl Hotel, and John Phillips and Michelle were in a suite on the second floor, and I used to go down to the room and hang out with them, and we'd jam.
We were all in the village playing the same clubs, and there's a turnaround, it's carousel.
There was no business in California then. It was all New York. And we had gone to New York to live in New York, to work out of New York. And I was obviously very, very homesick.
And we decided to just go somewhere, and Michelle threw a dart at the world globe, you know, and it landed on St. Thomas. And that's where we went. And after 4 months, we came back to New York. And no one was in New York. Roger wasn't there. Crosby wasn't there. Until we got to L.A., and lo and behold, everyone was in L.A. with record contracts, you know.
The Beach Boys raised the stakes.
We would be better musically than the Beatles.
Rock transformed into art, coming up on the history of rock and roll.
I'm Captain John Sheridan. As the new commanding officer of Babylon 5, I'm ready for a world of trouble.
Bruce Fox-Leitner as Captain John Sheridan. Interstellar Adventure, Babylon 5. Every year, the Discover card gives you something other credit cards don't. Cashback Bonus Award. So carry the Discover card and improve your cash flow. It pays to Discover.
Try this
They're
on.
trying to help you find what to wear, but they're really just wearing you out.
You know what? I'm gonna try these on.
Since Twix gives you chewy caramel, milk chocolate, and that great cookie crunch, twice you get one great snack after another.
Most sport coupes have road-cleaning suspensions, but bone-jarring rides. Most luxury coupes have lots of room, but cost lots of money. And some coupes have big engines, but tiny back seats. That was before. This is after. Introducing Chrysler Sebring, race-inspired four-wheel double wishbone suspension, 24-valve fuel-injected V6, and an honest-to-goodness back seat. The new Chrysler Sebring, the cure for the common coupe.
Gillette introduces the next revolution in shaving closeness. Microfins. And they're only on the new Sensor XL. These microfins precede the blades. As Sensor XL's spring-mounted blades adjust to your face, these soft, flexible fins gently stretch your skin, so your beard stands up for the closest, most comfortable shave. Get closer than ever before. Get the new Gillette Sensor XL.
If you want to know how good life really tastes, you need to wait a few years. Caffeine-free Diet Coke. No caffeine, no sugar, no limits.
The history of rock and roll can be yours. For your own copy of tonight's show on home video, just call this toll-free number now. You'll get a full hour of great music and more to enjoy whenever you want. Call now.
It was a time of L.A. becoming a rock center, a music center. Young musicians were moving here from everywhere else. And there was a whole generic kind of music that was truly peculiar and particular to Los Angeles. There was surfing music. Obviously, the greatest practitioner of surf music were the Beach Boys.
There was increasing pressure on California's most popular band, the Beach Boys. They could see that the times were changing, and Brian Wilson knew that his band had to change too.
Brian Wilson was in a situation that was very commercial. He was being asked to perpetuate that commerciality, and did for quite a while.
I got a phone call from Brian. He was extremely depressed about the prospects of having to go out on the road.
Brian's quitting the road was very traumatic. And he was really getting into difficulty in those days.
I had a nervous breakdown as a result of it. I couldn't handle the strain of going on tour. I just couldn't handle that kind of strain. It was like you had to get up every morning, you had to get on a plane, you had to go places. I couldn't handle the strain.
In truth, there was just too much pressure on him. He couldn't be writing and arranging and producing and then going out on the road with this stuff because there was just too much to do.
When he said, I'm not going to tour anymore, and he went in and started making much more elaborate, sophisticated music, he came to the conclusion that there were other things to look into that had more to do with personal musical growth.
So we went in the studio, tried to get something happening where we would be better musically than the Beatles. We realized that they had something like, I'm on a horse. They had more electricity than we had, you know? But we wanted to do something that had more musical merit than the Beatles. So we made Pet Sounds, which was Paul McCartney's favorite album.
I may not always love you, but long as there are stars above you, you'll never need to doubt it. I'll make you so sure about it. God only knows what I'd be without you.
I know that Paul and the others admired it too. They wanted to be able to write music as good as that or better than that. It was their yardstick, and it was a competitive thing.
Pet Sounds proved that pop music could be as sophisticated as a symphony. More and more musicians began experimenting and testing the limits. Albums became artworks, and the whole world was listening.
It was a weird time. It was like everything was happening simultaneously. The other thing was FM radio came into the forefront, and all of a sudden, kids were exposed to music that weren't hit singles. All of a sudden, FM was playing album cuts.
FM opened up the door to underground music, and that's why it was so important back in the 60s. Tom Donahue programmed the first underground radio station up in San Francisco, and Tom was playing music that was being listened to by college students and young people, and maybe even being played in clubs, but really had no exposure.
Somebody listened to FM might not even know a top 10 single, and somebody listened to AM would have no idea who Jimi Hendrix was.
Tomorrow, or just the end of time.
The explosive talent that shook the world.
You felt small. I think it's time to quit.
Jimi Hendrix arrives, coming up next.
And now, Big 58 News from the News at 10. Brought to you by Jewish Hospital.
Good evening, I'm Tony Hyatt. The first of two public hearings is underway in Louisville tonight by the Board of Aldermen concerning gay rights. Two ordinances have been proposed that ban discrimination of sexual orientation in the workplace. 18-year-old Gabriel Prince has been indicted on criminal attempted murder charges. He was arrested after allegedly shooting a Jefferson County police officer in the year on Monday. Defense attorneys for O.J. Simpson still claim the deaths of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman could be drug-related. Detective Tom Lang, lead investigator in the case, is to finish his testimony today. The Big 58 forecast overnight, mostly clear, a low of 20. For Thursday, sunny, not as cold, a high of 45. And for Thursday night, clear and a low of 25. I'm Tony Hyatt.
For a complete look at today's news, join us on the News at 10 on Fox 41.
You're about to witness a man execute his death wish. Sign the organ donor release on your driver's license. It just takes a few seconds and can give someone a lifetime.
Wanted 100 people with former credit problems to purchase a new or late model used car or truck under a special bank financing test market program. Choose from a large selection, including the Nissan Altima and any of the popular Nissan trucks. Neil Huffman Nissan has $1 million to lend to anyone who has been turned down for an auto loan. But hurry, this program is limited. Call Neil Huffman Nissan at 897-3151 or 1-800-203-2070 for more information.
Jimi Hendrix was the first proper electronic composer, because I think he was the first one who listened to what he was doing.
Jimi Hendrix was an envelope pusher. He was kicking with extreme force at all the boundaries of music. We were neighbors. He lived a block away from me. And we played together a lot in late-night jams in the village.
Hendrix had a group called Jimmy James and the Flames, and they played in the village at the same time I was playing in the village. And he couldn't buy a record contract, you know.
Once upon a time, if you're a black guy in America, you didn't get to the same opportunities. And he had to go to England. We're English guitar freaks, you know. We love guitars. They're sort of like another organ on your body.
I remember the first time he played in London was down a club called the Bag of Nails. Everyone was there.
Seeing Jimi Hendrix for the first time, hell of a lot of pain. Pained because in his presence and in the presence of that music, you felt small and you realized how far you had to go. And I think Eric Clapton suffered with that as well. We were both really, really shaken by, oh God, you know, what has happened to us? You know, a tornado called Jimi Hendrix.
I saw Jimi Hendrix and that was like, I said, I think it's time to quit.
The underground was erupting, transforming the musical and cultural landscape. Artists who had taken control of their own music were now taking control of the entire music industry. In 1967, Jimi Hendrix returned home to a brand new world.
Monterey is very groovy, man. This is something, man. This is our generation, man. All you people, we're all together, man. It's groovy. And dig yourselves, because it's really groovy.
What began as a small scene in Greenwich Village had turned into a cultural revolution.
The Suit and Tie Men were not part of that show, and since there was not a commercial element, it was really up from the people. And that was unprecedented. We're going to do a show, and it's not about money or sales. It's for free. And everybody did work for free except Ravi Shankar, who came from India with his sitar and had to make $3,000.
Monterey was the first time Hendrix ever played for an American audience. It was the first time Otis Redding ever played for a white audience. It was the first time the San Francisco groups had ever played for an international audience outside the city limits of San Francisco.
No more will my gray sea gonna turn a deeper blue, blue, blue. I could not foresee this thing ever happening to you.
Woodstock gets the lion's share of the attention But this was the real groundbreaker. It legitimized rock and roll as a concert art form.
The Who and Jimi Hendrix, their legendary battle.
He's doing my act.
Coming up next.
AT&T True Voice. A Bell Labs breakthrough so advanced it's patented. One of 25,000 AT&T patents for technology. Some competitors say True Voice is no big deal, but 4 out of 5 of their own customers prefer it. Decide for yourself. Call now for a demonstration.
The virus spreads.
We got 19 dead. We got 100 more infected. It's spreading like a brush fire.
The panic rises.
260 million Americans will be dead or dying.
The greatest medical crisis in history begins.
There will be panic the likes of which we have never seen.
Dustin Hoffman, Rene Russo, Morgan Freeman.
We can't stop it.
Outbreak, rated R, starts Friday, March 10th at a theater near you.
Wow, looks like some of you still haven't tried Glints, the conditioning color enhancer. Look, it just gives your color a kick. See, it's not hair color, it's subtle color.
A little bit of color.
And there's no ammonia or peroxide. It even conditions your hair. That's good! But the coolest thing, Glints washes out in 8 shampoos. 8 is great! So there's no commitment. Nothing. None. Zero. Nada. So come on, what are you waiting for?
Glints by Clairol.
Go on, give your color a little kick.
Your ecstasy, your ecstasy, your ecstasy, your ecstasy. Your ecstasy, your ecstasy.
After some trial and error, we've come up with a better chicken sub. Presenting Subway's Hot Chicken Barbecue, now made with big chunks of chicken and plenty of Lloyd's secret recipe sauce.
Enjoy Subway's new barbecue chicken sandwich today. It's 95% fat-free and available now for a limited time only at Subway.
It's Kart Country. Hold everything. Kart Country still has the first and longest go-kart track with an overpass in Kentucky. But now they offer Thunder Road. Not for the weak at heart. Thunder Road. One of the largest, fastest go-kart tracks in the United States. Thunder Road. Only at Kart Country. Just south of the airport off I-65. Exit 117 Shepherdville, just past Ponderosa.
I had played with The Who at Murray the K's Easter show. So at the Monterey staff meetings, I would say, just know that these guys are going to come out and wreck everything. You know, I would suggest that they closed. And I couldn't deal with the idea that at this critical concert, we might go on after Jimmy. And he said to me, you want to be first up there with the guitar smashing. So I said, Jimmy, I swear to you, that's not what it's about. And Jimmy started to play. He stood on a chair in front of me and he started to play. It was just Jimmy on a chair playing at me. Playing at me like that. You know, don't quit me, you don't. And then he snapped out of it and he put the guitar down and he said, okay, let's toss a coin. So we tossed a coin and we got to go on first. He then went on immediately after us, I think. I don't think there was anybody in between. So I went out to sit with Mama Cass to watch Jimmy. And as he started doing the stuff with his guitar, she turned around to me, she said to me, he's stealing your act. And I said, no, he's not stealing my act. He's doing my act.
The Who and Jimmy were determined to outdo each other. And I'm not sure who really won, you know. I mean, Jimmy humped the amp, broke his guitar, burned it up in flames. The Who blew up the entire stage.
Both acts, both the Who and Hendrix, smashed up equipment during their appearance there. And yet, one is like a violent rape, and the other is like an erotic sacrifice.
We didn't know that you could do that, you know. He's lighting that thing on fire. How dare they break up a drum set? They obviously had gotten a new sense of theatrics that nobody had, you know, even conceived of previously.
You know, what the Who were doing was transcendent in a lot of ways. But what Jimmy was doing was sublimely, it was an epiphany.
Right now with the little thing by Bob Dylan. That's his grandma over there. This little thing called Like a Rolling Stone.
There's nobody like him. I mean, there really isn't. I mean, there's Dylan and Hendrix and, you know, who else, you know?
Once upon a time, you dressed so fine. Through the bumps of diamond in your prime. Oh, didn't you? People call, say, but where dog? You're bound to fall, you thought they all. Well, couldn't you?
There was something really important happening, which was that this great music that we've discovered, this great music which is still growing, this music which now you can write songs about what's really happening deep, deep, deep inside of you and what's happening around you in the world, can also sound extraordinary.
Now you don't, baby, seem so proud.
That was just a step-by-step progression of just expanding the whole idea of anything is possible. There were no rules, and you can do whatever you want. Before that, there were rules. and only certain kind of songs were deemed capable of succeeding on the radio or the pop landscape. But the Beatles broke all those rules and got away with it, as Bob Dylan did here in his own early way, as people like the Byrds followed up on.
The bohemian element that had been a minority became a majority. It seemed to take over the whole planet.
Like a rolling stone.
We thought everyone knew about the new Stafford Executive Wrinkle-Free dress shirt at JCPenney.
Is he here yet?
At this Pinpoint Oxford now comes in a choice of colors and styles at a great price.
What could he be doing?
So naturally, we thought everyone knew you didn't have to waste time ironing your shirt when people are waiting on you. Apparently not. The Stafford Executive Wrinkle-Free dress shirt.
JCPenney, doing it right.
While every Plymouth Neon is born to be friendly, we've found a way to make them even friendlier. Get up to $600 cash back, plus up to $600 in package values for up to $1,200 off. Or get interest rates as low as 4.9%. All that and dual airbags make Plymouth Neon about as friendly as it gets. Say hello to Plymouth Neon. At the Preferred Option Sale, now at your Chrysler Plymouth dealer.
AT&T would like to say thank you. Thank you to the millions and millions of you who've chosen AT&T. With AT&T's Thank You Weekend Free Calling Special. Just call now to sign up, and you can get a free weekend of calls anywhere in the U.S. based on your normal weekend long-distance calling. So to everyone who calls with AT&T, thanks. And call us for your free weekend of calls. Call now.
Your true voice.
We could make our new jet ski watercraft perform like everybody else's, but first, we'd have to slow it down. The new 900 CXI. Watercraft World's Watercraft of the Year.
People who really understand money carry the Discover Card. Only Discover Card offers cashback bonus award. So it's the choice of people who really know the drill. It pays to discover.
The history of rock and roll, the event continues.
The last chance he had to shock people.
With the music that propelled the explosive 60s.
It was the worst drug orgy that was ever held.
Into sex.
Ooh,
drugs.
A psychedelic revolution was happening.
And rock and roll. Woodstock, the summer of love, stunning change, shocking tragedy.
My friends are dead.
The legends tell all.
Sexually charged, the whole thing, really.
Next time on the history of rock and roll. Travel arranged through Northwest Airlines, introducing the comfort, choice, and control of world business class. Only from global partners KLM and Northwest Airlines.
Just let me hear some of that rock and roll music. Any old way you choose it. Got a backbeat, you can't lose it. Any old time you use it. Gotta be rock and roll music. If you wanna dance with me, I have no kick against modern jazz. Unless they try to play it too darn fast and change the beauty of the melody until it sounds just like a symphony. That's why I go for that rock and